Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TCG Folk. This week I talk with Aly Jones, the new coordinator of JFCS NextGen. We talk about growing up in a really small Jewish community, what led her to the Twin Cities, and how to keep the NextGen momentum going while being socially distant on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Aly Jones, welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
So, Aly, you are the new NextGen coordinator at Jewish Family Children's Service in Minneapolis. So, first of all, I guess, how long have you been in that position, and what was it that drew you to the opportunity?
I started on June 1st, so just a little over a month, and I have been a NextGen board member for the last 3 years. So that was the big draw, and truly just JFCS has always been a place that I've aspired to work at and be a part of in any way that I could, and NextGen has brought me so much, so it was a great opportunity to be involved even more.
For those who don't know, what is JFCS NextGen, and what are some ways that people can get involved if that's something they're looking to do?
Sure. So NextGen is JFCS young adult group, and I have it pulled up just so I don't get it wrong, but I will read the mission statement that the board worked on last year to create and rejuvenate, if you will. So JFCS NextGen exists to inspire the next generation to connect with one another and Jewish community through Tikkun Olam, which is repairing of the world.
Okay. So what was, having been a board member, obviously you're very aware of the organization, having been on the board for the last few years. What was it about the opportunity to leave the volunteer side of things and go to the staff side of things?
That's a great question. I think really just having a role in it and helping young adults connect to their community in any way that they do wish was kind of powerful. And I know how much the volunteering has brought me closer to the community and really helped me learn and grow. And it felt like a great opportunity to help other people do the same thing and really learn more about JFCS from a different side and also about NextGen and what it provides.
So what are some specific ways that, like, as a board member, and I would assume you volunteered or did some sort of volunteer work with NextGen before getting involved at the board level, right?
I did, yes.
So what are some of the specific activities or the avenues maybe that NextGen gave you that made it such a interesting career choice?
Let's see. One program that I've consistently volunteered for throughout my time being involved in NextGen is JFCS Hag Sameach program, which is our Happy Holidays program, and they help provide people opportunity to have gifts and holiday things during holiday time. So that can mean Hanukkah, it can mean Christmas, it can mean Passover, all of these things, and it's an awesome program. And I have done, I think, almost everything that the volunteering aspect can provide, whether it's going shopping, which means that we go through the Hag Sameach warehouse and you get a list or a family and what all the family needs and the gifts that they will be provided with that season. And you go around the warehouse and you fill your shopping cart full of all of these gifts for the family. And then after that, there's also a gift wrapping opportunity. So you can wrap all those gifts. And then, there's a multitude of different things that they do. And I think being a part of all of that and being a part of giving people something special during the holidays that might not be able to have it otherwise, I have always loved to do. So just being able to help in those ways. And Hag Sameach is one program that NextGen often partners with within JFCS, and I think young adults really have a passion for helping out those families during holiday times and throughout the year.
And if you haven't had the opportunity to see the warehouse, it's really quite incredible.
Yes, it is incredible in the new building, and it's it's like walking into a store and just knowing that like so many community members and different places have donated all of those items is also incredible to see.
So obviously Chag Sameach is a great and like super worthy program, but how big of a challenge? I mean, I'm sure NextGen and JFCS is facing the same sort of challenges that I would imagine everybody else and certainly every other Jewish organization is facing in the coronavirus era, where those types of gatherings where you can go shopping in big groups to try to pull these pull gifts and work off these lists that you're provided. Obviously it's not quite as easy to do that now as it would be in any other year. So how do you envision maybe tweaking things to still keep all of the community involvement that NextGen is known for, but also by being able to stay safe and do all the appropriate things that you need to do to stay safe in this time?
Totally. I think that something that I've learned over this time of the pandemic and quarantine is that people are really creative and really resilient. And I think what I've learned through being the NextGen coordinator for the last month is that people are willing to do things in different ways and recreate opportunities for everyone. And we had a board meeting last week and sat and brainstormed all these ideas of what we could do virtually or safely in person, or what we were excited to do once maybe things went back to whatever our new normal will be. And people are just ready and willing to help in whatever way that means. And I think that JFCS is also really resilient in figuring out ways to reinvent different things to make sure that all of our participants get what they need. I think that we might just have to start doing things a little earlier this year to make sure that everything gets done safely, because we can't be in bigger groups, or there can't be that many people in a building or a warehouse at a time. But there are also ways to help from home. So I think that no matter what happens, everything's going to get done. And I think people are willing to do what they're comfortable with, whether it's gathering and donating to Prism or Chag Sameach or anything, and maybe doing things in small groups, like organizing or packing things up. So I think we are just going to be creative and resilient, and we will figure out a way to do it all.
And you mentioned Prism. There's obviously a very close partnership between JFCS and Prism, and obviously NextGen as well in Prism, because Prism shares space at the new JFCS headquarter building in Golden Valley.
Yes, it does.
And again, if you haven't had the opportunity to see the space and the good work that's being done there, it's really quite incredible. You should, I mean, I would say go see it, except I just don't know how accessible things like that are right now. So, maybe don't just drive up and see if you can get in, but it's really quite a great space and a great partnership. How does the work at NextGen and sort of working within the Twin Cities Jewish community here sort of align with your Judaism and Jewish values and how you were brought up?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think that something that I've never known completely what I wanted to do in my life, I don't know that there's always been like a direct career path. The only thing I've ever really known is that I just want to help people. And I think that really is what JFCS does. It helps people. And I think there's a million ways to do that, but knowing that I'm working for an organization that strives to do just that in a million different ways is really cool. I grew up in a small Jewish community in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I think something that my family has always taught me and that growing up always taught me was all of the things and values that you can do to help people. And I think what I found within all of the Jewish work that I've done is the service aspect that is really valued, the tikkun olam, if you will. And it's really fun to work for a place that just encompasses all of that.
So what was it that brought you to the Twin Cities then? Like you said, Santa Fe is a fairly small Jewish community. In, I suppose, the grand scheme of American Jewish communities, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of communities that would think that Minneapolis isn't that, near the Twin Cities, rather, isn't that big of a Jewish community either. But certainly, Santa Fe is fairly small. What was it that led you here?
Santa Fe compared to Minnesota, like coming to Minnesota my mind was blown at all of the synagogues of all denominations, of all of there's a federation, there's JFCS, there's so many opportunities that my mind was blown. Like I'd never known that there was all of this going on in the world. And long story short, and I'll get maybe into the longer version, but I started school at the University of Arizona, and I was there for 2 years, and it just wasn't a fit for me. So I decided to transfer, and I came to the University of Minnesota, which also happened to be where my boyfriend at the time was going to school, which was just an added bonus. I was really looking for a place that I felt comfortable in and that I felt aligned with my values and that had an opportunity for me to do and learn at school in the way that I wanted. And Minnesota really was that place. So that's how I got here, and I've been here ever since. And now I'm engaged to that boy. So it all really worked out for the best, and I love it here.
Well, mazel tov on the engagement. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I mean, from Tucson to Minneapolis, like that's that's a pretty big. Those are not the same places.
No,
it's a pretty big difference between those two.
Yes, very, very different. I found myself people really don't know that Santa Fe has seasons. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it snows in Santa Fe, and it's always funny to me to hear. And Santa Fe is very north in New Mexico, and yes, it snows. Yes, it melts right away. I also had a snow day every time it snowed because nobody knew what to do with it like they do here. But yes, Tucson, really, it's a lovely place. There's a lot of great things that happen there, and I really felt myself missing seasons and that shift in outfit changes and all of it. It was just crazy. You'd think that being in the sun all the time was kind of what you would strive for and be happy in, and I found that wasn't really my truth. So I came to the extreme, and I moved here in 2013, and it was, I think, the coldest winter that we'd had in the last 35 years or something. The University of Minnesota closed school because it was so cold. So it really just prepared me. And now everything seems like such a breeze.
Well, you wanted seasons. I suppose that you got them?
I did indeed.
So you had told me before we had started recording that this isn't your first foray into the Jewish communal working, correct?
Correct. It is not. I truly have worked in the Jewish world my whole life, but I, right after college, I started as the youth group advisor at Bet Shalom congregation, and I was working at a different preschool. I met some woman on an airplane while I was in college, and she offered me a job working at her preschool, and that's how I got my first job out of college. And working there was great. It was also 45 minutes away from here, and the commute was really just not for me. And Rabbi Locketts and Rabbi Crimmings kept telling me that I should work at Bet Shalom Yeladim, at the preschool at Bet Shalom, and since I was already working there, and I kept saying, well, no, like I have this job. I don't know. It's just I don't want to just quit or whatever. And after a few months, it really became evident that I really loved working at Bet Shalom, and why not just work there full time and do the things that I loved, which were children and helping people and community and all of that. So in October of 2015, I started working in the preschool at Bet Shalom Yeladim, and I started working as the assistant toddler teacher, and from there I became a lead toddler teacher as well as the assistant director, and that's what I did for the last 4.5 years, and it was great. I went to work happy every day, got to see kids learn and grow, and really just love life, and again, help people and learn so much about all of that.
Well, that's, I mean, so cool. And having, I mean, my kids are older now. They're 15 and 11, but I do remember that age. And I mean, some of those, they weren't all fun times, but a lot of the time that's a fun age to be, because they do interact with you more. They're not, it's not like an infant where there's less interactivity between you and them.
Totally. And I worked kind of with all ages being there and being the assistant director, and
sure.
Being in the toddler room was definitely one of my favorites for sure. They're just such sponges, and even infants, like you can just see them learning with each like move they make and stuff. But toddlers are fun. They're really cool. Like they can be mad at you for 1 minute and the next minute love you unconditionally, and they're so kind and they're just fun. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it is a fun age. But sort of back to, in terms of your like career timeline so far, you've obviously these two really big jobs out of college have been within the Jewish community. Did you know that working within the Jewish community was something that you had sort of wanted to do when you were either in college or even before?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever saw myself working solely in the Jewish community. I knew I would be a part of it in some way, but I think it's really how I find myself and connect. Like, I may not be going to services every Friday or Saturday, but being able to teach people about values and toddlers about holidays and all of these things, I think really connects me to my Judaism. So I don't think that I one day was like, yeah, I'm going to work in the Jewish community for the rest of my life. But I think I don't see myself really working anywhere else at this point.
Well, and there is a certain pull, because I mean, I've worked in media my whole life, but I started at a Jewish paper in Detroit, and then went sort of went to the non-Jewish or secular media for a while, and then ended up back at Jewish media, and there's a certain comfort about work, sort of working within your community like that.
Yeah, I agree.
For better or worse sometimes, but
totally.
it's. I mean, I think it can be hard to. You don't feel like you actually ever leave the work behind because you're Jewish and you're working within your own Jewish community.
Yeah,
but for the most part, it's all right.
Yeah, I agree. But I also, I don't know, it's pretty cool, and I surround myself by a lot of people who also work in the Jewish community, and just by happen chance, and it's fun. It's fun to like have connections through. I worked at the preschool, so now I know kids that go to camps that my friends run, or I worked in the youth group, and so now I know kids at Hillel, which my friends also run and work for, and it's fun to be able to like connect with each other in that way too.
Well, and especially as somebody who is a youth group director, you sort of see them as high school students, and then you pass them off sort of in a way to your friends who are at, if they go to the U, they're at Minnesota Hillel, or working in this world, you probably form connections with people who are elsewhere too.
Totally, yeah.
Or the friends at Minnesota Hillel have friends at Hillel for whatever other school that your one-time youth group kids are now at.
Right. Or working at camp, you see them grow and start going to HUC and, or running a company. Like, it's pretty cool to watch all of these people grow.
So do you've seen NextGen sort of, from the board level, now you're settling in to the staff level. Do you have, is there one big initiative maybe that you have in mind for wanting to jump into, or was there something that your predecessor, tried to get rolling, but, wasn't able to, for whatever reason, that you want to pick up and run with now?
I don't have an exact answer or goal other than I just want people to find their space in the community and really learn about JFCS being on board. And I think this year our board is already so great and so excited. And I think that, I don't know, I just want to see it continue to grow. And I think that within the last few years, it shifted, and we created a new mission statement, and we've really been trying to implement all service projects into our larger parties. And things may not be the same this year, but I think what is going to continue to be the same is that we're going to keep volunteering and we're going to keep doing service, and everyone is going to find their space in whatever that may be. And I really just want to provide opportunity for people that want that opportunity and connect with as many people that I can connect with. So I don't have an exact initiative other than just really continuing the momentum and the growth that we have going.
And I think it's great that you're able to try to continue momentum, especially now. Again, I feel like a lot of organizations' momentum has, been stifled at some point over the course of the last 4 months, and to be able to be so energetic about being able to keep that up is really outstanding. It's great that you have that passion, and it seems to be unabated by the current circumstances.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, I think our world, at least most of it, is really resilient right now. And I'm excited to see where it takes everyone.
Oh, that is awesome. All right, Aly, last couple of questions to get you out of here on. First, what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I think Passover. My aunt always, not always, I guess we kind of switched it around, but often was the one who led our seders, and she's so wise and had such great stories to tell, and the food's pretty good. And it's really a time where I feel like people come together.
That's awesome. And what is your favorite Jewish food? Speaking of Jewish foods.
Man, there's a lot to choose from. I think matzo ball soup. My grandpa made the best matzo ball soup in the world, and I think that will always be something that I enjoy.
I gotta tell you, I'm sure his matzo ball soup was great, but if I had $1 for every time somebody said matzo ball soup and their grandparent parent, aunt, uncle is the best in the world, I could retire, I think.
Well, I don't know if you've had matzo ball soup.
Oh, I've had
Hold
my fair share of matzo
Well,
ball
yeah,
soup.
you've had matzo ball soup, but you haven't had my grandpa's or my mom's matzo ball soup, and my mom puts green chili in it from New Mexico, and so I don't know that you've had the best matzo ball soup till you've had it with green chili in it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I will. I might have to try that sometime. I may not have anybody in my house want to eat it, but I may have to try it sometime just to say I tried it. Well, Aly Jones, thank you so much for joining us this week. Mazel tov on your new job at NextGen, and mazel tov on your engagement. And we look forward to seeing what NextGen is able to do to keep that momentum going as you settle in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.